This is Venki. I had the sales engineering at CoreStack, and CoreStack is an AI-powered cloud governance platform. So before we get into what CoreStack is, what it really does, I think it is also important to understand in the history, what is the best thing that has happened, right? The technology has been changing over and over again. 2 decades back, there was a different technology. We knew, everyone said, internet is the best technology or best thing that has happened. Then the entire shift, the things shifted to the telecommunication, or what we call as mobile communication. And in the last couple of years, cloud computing has been the poster child. But what has really remained constant in this is the artificial intelligence, right? And the machine learning. Be it internet, mobile communication, or cloud computing, I think one of the key things that we have always seen is AI was almost like a concept, which now is almost behind every other technology that we today use on a daily basis, or even in the enterprise world, right? So the problem that CoreStack really sees in the enterprise world, as the cloud adoption continues to increase, we know what cloud can really provide for an end customer or to an enterprise. But what are the key challenges today the enterprise continue to face is definitely number one is cost, operational complexities, and the third is security and compliance. While there is a way to go ahead and fix these issues from more from a detective, or just go ahead and detect and correct it, which today enterprises are doing, but is it really scalable? Probably not. So what is that is required to ensure that the cost related solutions, or benefits, or operational related benefits, or security and compliance related benefits are delivered at the highest efficiency level, right? So there has to be, it should not only be detective and corrective, there should also be a component which is basically what we call as predictive, right? How can those predictions can be done from a cost perspective, security and compliance perspective, to ensure that you're able to have control over all of these three key challenges that today enterprise face. To understand a little bit more, what will happen when AI ML really meets cloud governance? It's a question, right? So it's basically, it amplifies their abilities to deliver higher business values. Now there are so many algorithms built, and if it works along with cloud, the business benefits are really to the next level. And that is exactly what CoreStack really does. It brings in, it looks it through the lens of what we call as Oscar: operations, security and compliance, cost, access, and resource. Now, why Oscar? Because when you look at from an operations perspective, there is a whole lot of data that gets generated within a specific account or within a specific workload, right? What do we do with the data? As we know, data is the key source for any algorithm to really function, right? So in CoreStack, we have various types of algorithms which runs through. For example, we have heard about regression, clustering, classification, dimensionality reduction, and text classification. So all these are built with a key promise that we are able to generate the data, consume the data, and provide predictive outcomes. That is exactly what is required right now. How to ensure that all of these, and it is also important to understand that they don't run in silos. Every pillar here, from an Oscar perspective, they are all interrelated. Operations provides you capability of extracting monitoring data, your activity data, but it also allows us to predict what is going to happen from a service availability perspective, from a service reliability perspective, right? And for security, it's more of how to identify breaches, how to identify cost leakages. While you can run certain preventive rules or detective rules, but that's definitely not scalable. Now, how do we make it more scalable? And CoreStack is also moving towards the next stage, which we call it as industry's first governance, benchmark, and indexing, wherein you can go ahead and benchmark your internal cloud accounts to see what is, which account is working well, and also coming up with a way that if you are in the financial services, how does cloud, what are the best practices from holistically from an industry perspective? How am I, faring against the other competitors or other peers who are there in the same industry? And that's what is the governance and the benchmark that we are talking about. um, Clubbing the AI ML with operations, you basically get, self-healing cloud infrastructure and anomaly detections, right? And operationally, oriented AI will provide you a great deal and value in over a period of time. Are you able to get that self-healing right on day one? Probably not, right? The engine needs to learn, and what pretty much happens there is it learns and finds out what is the action that the user is taking to fix a problem, right? There is an alert that comes in. He goes and always takes a step of auto scaling or stops or restarts. The engine continuously learns and finds out that 90% of the time, to solve the issue, it is always a restart or it is always an auto scale, right? And next time you are in a position to basically enable self-healing. So there is a configuration that can be done to ensure that, these actions can be taken automatically to ensure that the self-healing happens by itself for all the minor problems. And for the major problems, you can take a collective decision whether you want to do that or not, right? So that's how the self-healing cloud infrastructure really works from an AI ML perspective. The anomaly detection is pretty much works on the whole concept of what is happening across the board whenever an operational service availability gets an impact. Let's say a CPU spikes or a network in network out spikes. What is making the spike in those metrics? Is it an activity or what is happening, right? So that's where the anomaly detector really goes and correlates all of the activities that are happening simultaneously at that point during that time frame, and basically letting you know that this is the cause for this spike to happen, and which can potentially have an impact on your service availability, so your workload won't be available. So what can be proactively done is what anomaly detection will clearly suggest. Additionally, there are algorithms which basically runs and predicts based on how your consumption is for the last 3 months, and can help you forecast your capacity, that this is how much I'm going to consume for the next 3 months, because there are various number of resources that you provision at any month on month. There is a dip, there is an increase, but the engine continuously learns how the utilization happens, and based on the utilization, you are able to also forecast. And that's how you can also get more control over your cloud operations. From marrying AI ML with SecOps, right? That's another key aspect, because today, as more and more workloads are getting into cloud, it is also important to maintain a compliance posture. How do you ensure that you're able to maintain compliance at all times? Many of the industry-focused organizations, such as financial services companies who want to be compliant with NIST 800 or PCI DSS, it is no more an act of doing this exercise of being compliant every 3 months or 6 months. With cloud, it has become almost you need to be compliant on a daily basis. So how do I ensure that I am compliant? And that is what CoreStack really addresses. It basically hooks up to the events that are happening, which immediately notifies within milliseconds, so that you can go ahead and take an automated action to fix any compliance violations, or take a collective decision based on the data whether I can fix and ensure that we are in a continuous compliance motion right from day one when the policies are implemented. Now, what really happens from a security standpoint, right? Security also is very key. While compliance is to ensure that you're adhering to industry standards, from a security standpoint, which is more of your internal IT info security policies or even the best practices, right? how do I ensure that I'm compliant with those security policies? And one of the key aspect there is the access governance, right? Many of the security related breaches that have happened in the past, they have happened primarily because of, the access was not governed properly. Now there has to be a machine learning algorithm or engine which can basically continuously scans to see how a user is accessing a cloud platform, and that's very important, right? So I, as a user, would have asked for access for 10 resources, but at any point in time, I'm always using 2 of the resources, right? So that clearly says that I do not even need the access for rest of the 8. Now, can the engine tell me that, hey, Venki as a user has not been using these services for the last 3 months, he doesn't even need that access. So essentially shifting the entire access strategy to least privilege access strategy, right? How can we move that to the, comply to the least access privilege strategy is basically through the AI ML algorithms that are built in, which we continue to learn from the user activity that is happening at any point in time, right? So more and more as we learn, as the engine learns, it basically moves you from reactive to proactive, and that's the key business benefit that the organization today receive. How do AI/ML impact your FinOps? Everybody knows today, the industry #1 problem for every organization today is cost, right? Cost visibility, cost optimization, cost leakages. Now, how can I build an engine which can optimize to the highest level? Now, there are various techniques to optimize cost, which are very straightforward, of looking at zombie resources and cleaning it up. But there are very key 3 or 4 cost optimizations today are built around what we call as, everyone knows right sizing, right? If right sizing in the past was done using just one metrics. If the CPU goes high or low, underutilized, you just bump down the entire, the flavor of the machine to the smallest level. But that's actually not the right way of doing it, primarily because if you just go ahead and bump it down to any other size, it will have an impact on performance. It will have an impact on availability. So how do we ensure that we are, when we are suggesting a right sizing option, it looks at all of the utilization metrics. If I move from one flavor to another flavor, it clearly has to tell that if you move, your availability is going to be 50% or 90%, but your performance is going to be 50%. So the engine is able to provide the right kind of data in order for the user to really take the decision that, yes, I'm okay with, availability being 99%, but performance being 50, which is totally fine because this is an application which is not critical. So I'm okay taking that option. That's more from a right sizing perspective, right? And the second is, as you know, there are so many workloads that are running. How do I ensure that I continue to monitor the runtime of any instances and provide a recommendation stating, hey, these instances can be shut off in the night automatically and bring it up in the morning 9 o'clock. So you don't have to go and manually schedule certain resources based on tags or anything. Let the engine tell you based on how the VMs are running or virtual machines are running and provide you the right kind of recommendation. Now moving to the next one, where based on the utilization, how can I really help you automatically adjust the budget, right? That's very key, because as the number of instances continues to go up or down, it is important for the engine to provide a right value to the FinOps user, saying, hey, your budget needs to be at this range, and your forecasting based on the utilization is going to look like this for the next 3 months. So they know how much they can really allocate. It also provides them a clear visibility into, because every organization has, chargebacks, showback. It will help them tremendously. The last is cost anomaly. As you know, the cost anomaly also works from the fact that engine continues to learn what is the parameter within the utilization which can cause a spike in the cost, or find out the cost leakages. That's exactly the formula that works in cost anomaly. It goes and continues to check the utilization of individual services that are being consumed within a specific cloud and comes back and provides you a very key recommendation into, how do you control these leakages that are coming out from the cost anomaly. Right, so that's how the AI ML part of helps the FinOps part to ensure that your cost is managed efficiently. Now, all I have to say at the end is you can get more done with AI because you will not be able to get on day one, but if you allow the engine to learn and gather more and more data, you will get into a state where you can have improved agility, you can empower automation to the highest level to gain more operational efficiencies and have a complete control over your cost and have your infrastructure more secure, reliable, and available throughout the journey, right? So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in terms of how CoreStack looks at it and the various algorithms from an AI perspective that can help govern the entire resource stack end to end, not only for certain resource types, but also as the hyperscalers brings in more services, how can we inject that into the same engine to provide the highest level of benefits. So with that, I'll take a pause and thank you very much again. If you want to know more, you can visit CoreStack.io, discover for a demo. We'll be happy to show. That's pretty much for today.